Hello and welcome to my Astronomy Nights. I'm Derek and in this video I'm looking at M92 and NGC 6229. So M92 and NGC 6229 are the other two clusters in the constellation of Hercules. It's best known for M13, which gets the name of the Great Hercules Cluster, but these two are really nice in their own right, with M92 also making the Messier list, and then NGC 6229 being quite a fascinating little globular cluster due to its great distance rather than its physical size. So let's begin with M92 and we'll use the keystone in Hercules, and we want to find that northeastern star in Pi Hercules, and then we'll locate a magnitude 5.5 star that sits 3 degrees to the west of Iota, and that's 74 Hercules, and the line between both of those will just move 3 degrees towards Pi from 74, and you'll see that little haze of M92. Now if your sky conditions are good enough to pick out that 5.5 magnitude star, you can use Iota and Eta Hercules as well, and you want to be moving 5 degrees towards Eta from Iota. Now you'll pick up M92 in a pair of binoculars or your finder scope because it is magnitude 6.4 and it's quite bright and quite obvious that it has that little haze to it. Now NGC 6229 is slightly easier because you can use the line of Tau and Sigma Hercules, and you want to find the parallel line made by 42 and 52 Hercules. They kind of nearly make a square, just slightly off. So when you get 42 and 52, you're looking for that halfway point, and that's where NGC 6229 is. Now it's quite distinctive because it has two little magnitude 8 stars sitting right up beside it, and it makes a tiny little triangle in your finder scope. It's quite distinctive because it has the haze of NGC 6229 and then those two little pinpoint stars. So in 1781, this cluster became the 92nd addition to Messier's catalogue. It was a rediscovery, however, with Johann Bode discovering this in 1777. It's been subsequently added to the New General Catalogue as NGC 6341, and it's a really nice example of a globular cluster. It's classed as a 4 on the Shapley-Sawyer concentration chart. Messier 13 is a 5, and you can see that difference in it with that concentrated core that kind of dissipates around it, whereas M13 is more of a smooth look from the centre outwards. The size difference between 13 and 92 then is about 6 arc minutes, with M92 being 14 and Messier 13 is 20 arc minutes. The difference is a physical thing. They both sit at about the same distance away, around 25 to 30,000 light years, but then M92 has far fewer stars within it. NGC 6229 is much smaller than M92. It just has a diameter of 4.5 arc minutes and its brightness is magnitude 9.4. This one was discovered by William Herschel in 1787, and when he first observed it he considered it to be a planetary nebula because it has a really smooth brightness to it and it's very round, and it's very hard to resolve those individual stars, but this is just because of the extreme distance of it at 100,000 light years compared to 25,000 for M92. It does have a nice little pair of stars sitting beside it that frame really well. The northernmost of those is just 200 light years away and the southern is 300 light years away. To photograph M92 and NGC 6229, I was using my 200 PDS, my NEQ6 mount and my QHY163 mono camera. I was collecting the data for these two objects as well as M13 at the same time, and I was trying to get RGB on all of them. Now with the shorter evenings it was a little tricky to keep them all going, but I was able to get enough data on every one of them to be able to get the live view and the photo. M92 is a little tricky because of that bright core. Compared to say M13, the exposure was quite easy, but just on M92, just when you're editing it, it's very easy to blow out that central core. Now NGC 6229 is very, very small, but it shows up quite well. I'm quite surprised at how good the photo is compared to say the visual observation of it. So my observation sessions for M92 and NGC 6229 were at the same time as M13, and they're all done within a couple of weeks when I was gathering the data for the photos. And I was using my 82mm refractor and 12-inch Dobsonian telescope. So I use the 82mm refractor primarily for M13 and M92, as NGC 6229 is just too faint to pick out anything with an 82mm refractor. You can see the cluster and you can see the way it makes that little triangle with the 2 magnitude 8 stars, but to resolve anything you just need something larger. So then I was using my 12-inch Dobsonian, and when I trained this on it was fascinating to see it, and I could resolve just a few of those little stars, but not a lot, but it is so small. But it's so lovely to look at it at 100,000 light years and compare it to the other clusters in Hercules. At 100,000 light years, this is the diameter of the Milky Way away from us. So it's quite a distance, and then you can see that depth of field with those 2 little magnitude 8 stars, which are at 200 and 300 light years. And then moving on to M92, this cluster is really, really nice. I think if it was anywhere else, I think I'd observe it more often. But just because M13 is so easy to locate, I tend to observe that any night I'm out with the telescope. I'll have a look at M13 and then go on to another target when I'm setting up. But M92, it has this really nice concentrated core. It's really, really bright in the center, and then it lightens as it works its way out. M13 seems to be smooth all the way across the whole disk of stars, but it has that concentrated core, and it has a couple of little arcs of stars coming out of it. So to observe NGC 6229 and M92, I used my 12-inch Dob and I used my 82mm refractor. And my aim in this was to try and directly compare M92 and M13, and then also track down 6229 for the first time. Now 6229 was straightforward to find the location of it, and then when I was trying to hone in on it, it really looked like a really kind of diffuse star. You couldn't get any of that resolution around the edges, especially at low power. Increasing the power though, then I was able to get some of those stars on the outer side of it, but the center is just so bright in comparison. It was quite tricky, but it was well worth observing. It frames really well with the 2 little magnitude 8 stars beside it, which also help in tracking it down. So for M92 then, I wanted to do a direct comparison with M13. I'd observed M92 before, but I'd never directly compared the 2 of them. So I wanted to see that difference with the core and the classification on the Shapley-Sawyer concentration chart. And after the first go back and forth between M13 and M92, you could really see the difference. It's quite striking that the center portion of this one, for about 4 arc minutes or so across, is just so bright compared to the outer edges, and at low power it looks quite even and circular on the outside, that haze, but when you increase the magnification you can really see those little curves and tendrils of stars moving around, and it's got quite an asymmetric layout to it. When I went to 200 power on this, I was able to just track those nice northeastern and southwestern curves of stars and just a few little dark patches. So I was really happy with this little project of photographing and observing the 3 clusters in Hercules. I think M92 and M13 are a really nice pair to compare if you get a chance. And 6229, it's a nice little tricky one to hunt down, but it's well worth it. So if you get a chance to observe any of these globular clusters in Hercules, do let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you all. Thanks so much for watching again, and clear skies.